Good morning. I come to you. It's actually not that cold. As you can see, about 3 or 4 hours later, because I was across the street, I just went back and I bought the jacket, and I don't regret it at all. A $250 REI Stormbolt jacket with a tag on it. I don't regret it at all. It's, gorgeous. Which one can see it? I guess it's only on the left, but Gore-Tex. Like, this is a 10-year like rain jacket. I'm gonna try not to move too much, just because it's gonna be obnoxious. But I like this jacket. I don't regret that I bought it. It sounds bad and it sounds stupid, but because I spent $20 yesterday on clothes, it motivated me. Like, I was like, well, you can't quit today. Like, you already spent 20 bucks today. Like, you gotta be motivated. You gotta stick it out. You gotta do your thing. So I did. It's bad that, I don't know. It's part of the reason why part of me wishes I just had enough, or I could get a loan for a house, because then I'd be like, well, now I owe $32,000. I gotta make sure I keep this job and keep my head on straight. But I don't know. I'll show the jeans real quick, and then today we're gonna have a theme video, because someone requested that yesterday. Someone said they liked my theme video, so I thought I'd do another one. Those jeans, again, they were just still on the shelf when I came back 4 hours later. If I was picking the jacket up, I was gonna pick up the jeans. Emo Gina and Willie, Indigo 3330s jeans. Handmade in Tennessee. $4. They're expensive. Yeah. Hopefully the audio is not like super bad. Again, that's why we're gonna stop moving so much. But today we're just gonna go over my jobs. I turned 30 this year. I had my first job, I guess, in like 2017, winter 2017-ish. I lost my house, living in my car. Never had a job before other than home health care with my grandpa, which wasn't a real job. It was like it's a family thing, you know what I mean? So, never had an actual job. The first job I could find was like Muffin Ma'am. And we just made like prepackaged bakery goods. The problem with that job is, one, I had never had a job before. I weighed about 300 pounds. I had done almost no physical effort whatsoever, in life. Let's see. And then two of the people that were there were people that got locked up for juvenile crime. They went to actual jail, but I went to juvie. And I don't know if they noticed me or not, or knew who I was, but I'm pretty sure they did, and they were trying to get me fired. Like, they were trying to work me until I got really hurt. And they had me, like, dropping my knife and things, and I only made it, it's kind of sad, I made it through one day's shift, and then I had a blister so big on my hand that I couldn't do it, because they were pushing me until I would get hurt. And so I think I only made it like a day and a half, and it's bad because by the time I could get that $112 or $150 check that the lady gave me like a week later, I had no money. That was all my money. Like, yeah, I just couldn't work that job. It was killing me. And then I went and took a interview at Goodwill, Woodruff Road in Greenville, South Carolina. I took an interview at Goodwill. They were so beyond desperate for people, they would have hired anyone. So obviously they hired me. Yeah. So I took the job. At the time, I don't think I had enough money, or I wasn't smoking pot because I just didn't have any money, and yeah, I don't think I was really hanging out with Andrew too much, and there was just a lot of bad stuff going on in my life. Living in my car in a Walmart parking lot. I worked at that Goodwill. I have pictures and stuff of it. I'll put those up at another time just to show how bad it is. Not in this video because I don't have the pictures right now, but at some point I'll put them up. It was pretty horrible. It was a combination of like old people. In the year that I was there, I think it was like 32 people, more than were on the staff, came and went. And there were a bunch of supervisors that came before me, and then the one that left just before I kind of like took on the job without taking on the job, because I told him I wouldn't do it. I didn't want the responsibility of it, but I would do the job. it was a girl. She was like, it was so bad that she would just come into work and like things would go wrong and she'd just start crying. It was like a big burly girl, you know what I mean? Like she was built to do the job, but she would just cry and get upset about it, and I don't blame her because this is so stressful. And it was just a very unsafe work environment. Like when I show pictures and stuff, OSHA would like lose their mind. It was bad. And then they hired in like a like a 45-year-old supervisor who had really like bad mental illness, and he was harassing people. And like he was fine at first. Like I showed him how to do the job and everything. And then after a while, he started just like riding me because I think he found out that I had anger issues and bipolar disorder, and he just started riding me, and that lasted about like 4 or 5 months. But it got to the point where like he would follow me outside off the clock on my break to my car, and I was like, yo, you're gonna need to get away from me. Like I was getting ready to beat this man's, you know what, like he's 45, he's mentally ill, and he's poking my button on purpose. Like he was about to lose some teeth, like no question whatsoever. So I quit that job because he was harassing me. He was later fired for harassing other people because he would do it to other people too. He was an absolute piece of shit. Yeah. I quit that job. It was very unsafe. Lots of different unsafe. The pay was low. There's lots of things. But that's kind of where I learned, my thrifting type thing. I learned to see like the cool stuff, and I worked with the old lady Miss Ella, and I'd pick through shoes, and I kind of learned about shoes. And then because I was always living in my car, it's kind of awkward to just like loiter in parking lots all the time. I was so worried the police would bother me, even though now I understand that I was just one person and I wasn't committing a crime realistically. But I would just roll around to thrift stores and just like look for stuff to buy, because in my head I was like, I'm gonna resell this stuff. And I went with that mentality for like a year, just buying stuff to potentially resell and hoard and whatever. And I got a bunch of cool stuff, and I, kind of learned the hobby a bit more, because before I was just a donation attendant, and sometimes I priced stuff like when I hurt my back. But for the most part, I was just, the donation attendant. I just take in crap and try and pile it up places. Like, like my organization skills are insane, because I literally would have to like pile up mountains of crap 10 to 15 feet in the air, like in a box, like 15 feet up, and then like the box next to it would be 15 feet up, but different stuff. Like, it was pretty bad. It was a horrible job. I had that job. I quit that job because that supervisor was driving me into the ground. I couldn't take him anymore. I hated that dude, like real bad. And they couldn't get anyone to help me. Like everyone would just quit that position, or they would just hire a drug addict, or they hired a guy that I caught stealing stuff, like in the stupidest way. Like, if you're gonna commit crimes or do something, don't put me in a position where I awkwardly have to catch you. Like, be smart. You know what I mean? If I was committing crime, you wouldn't know I was committing crime. You know what I mean? So it was annoying. So, I like shoes. You know what I mean? And there's some shoes that I took in earlier that day. And then the dude has the balls to put the shoes on, the exact same pair of shoes, pretty specific pair of shoes, put them on, and then just wear them out. And I guess he had a laptop in his backpack and all types of stuff. I told the guy, I was like, when he walked by, I didn't really do anything about it. I was like, yo, those are nice shoes. Where'd you get those? And he's like, he immediately just broke. He didn't have anything to say. I'm like, maybe he had like one quick thing that he said. And I was like, I took those shoes in today. Like, yeah, those shoes were donated. And then he just lost it. And yeah, I don't know. It was a whole thing, man. Like, you don't steal. Like, there's a big line between stealing and, you paid $1 for this, even if it's worth $1,000. It doesn't matter. It's a legal transaction. It's like, stupid people are stupid. So I don't know. Yeah. It's a whole thing. I worked there for like a little over a year. I had health care. I got these glasses. I didn't use the health care as much as I wanted, but I went to the doctor because my back got hurt and a couple other things. Yeah, so it was alright, I guess. I didn't really make any, I never really made any money. I literally was just like almost living check to check in my car type shit. It sucked. Yeah. Right next to where my nice house used to be. Quit that job, and then Andrew and them, they all wanted me to come work at this factory. And I probably should have, but I just never, again, it's the thing where, like, if I don't do something as soon as I want to do it, I'll psych myself out in doing it. I'll just tell myself, like, you're too weak, or you're not good enough, or whatever, like, you know what I mean? I'll psych myself out on something, or I'll just put it off to the point where I forget, or just anything like that. And I think it was only like a couple of weeks where they were like, yeah, come work with us, and I just never did. And then that blowout with Andrew happened. He added me on Twitter, and he asked how I was doing, so I don't know if I'm gonna text him back. I hate to be that smartass, but, like, where's my 350 type thing? Like, I'm living in my car. He's like, how you doing? I'm like, living in my car, bro. How you doing? Like, are you piggybacking off of some, like, fat woman with kids still? Like, what you doing? Like, don't. Yeah, I hate people that just want to take. I don't know. That job, I had that job. That was until like 2019ish, and then I lost my job. Started staying with my cousins for a little while. Again, I just couldn't find a job. Couldn't find a job. I wasn't looking hard enough, I promise you that, but I couldn't find a job. You know what I mean? And then I tried to get my GED, but that wasn't really working because I have zero focus. I tried for a while. I spent like a week or couple weeks like doing classes online, and I just couldn't do it. I can't retain the information. I couldn't focus. I mean, I was living in a house with a bunch of kids and stuff, but I just couldn't really focus at all. So that didn't work. Could find a job. When I left there, I think I had like $13,000. I didn't know where to go or what to do anymore. I was kind of hoping I would just end it again. So then I just started staying at the Ohio Motel in Bath, Ohio, or Fairlawn, Ohio. I think I stayed there for like 10 months or something, so I just ran myself out of money. And then on the last week or whatever, I think the guy was like, hey, are you paying for rent next week? I'm like, no, I'm going to go to the homeless shelter. Or I think I was planning on ending it. It was one or the other, but obviously I wasn't going to tell him. So I was like, yeah, no, I don't need a room anymore. I'm going whatever. And then I told the dude my story. And then in a way, like, he had already been taking advantage of me by charging me like $700 or something every 2 weeks for rent. So it was just the whole thing, man. Like, being mentally ill is not good. Being in a bad mental space is not good for me. Like, cause I just give up, man. I don't care. I don't care about this money. I don't care about anything. I'll light this jacket on fire if I feel like it, or if I'm in a bad mood. Yeah. So I then took a Goodwill job because it was the first thing that would hire me, and I took a Goodwill job about 35 miles away because I'm smart. Took a Goodwill job about 35 miles away in downtown Akron. Yeah, it was a long drive every day to work, and I was just hanging clothes, and I was just hanging out with like this mentally ill lady, and I buy pot off her son or whatever a little bit, you know. And then she just kind of fell out. I think she was doing meth or something, because she just kind of like fell out mentally. Like, I don't know, she stopped like texting me or messing with me, and she told me some crazy stories, but like, you know, I always kept it nice. I was nice to her. I'd take her home from work sometimes so she wouldn't have to ride the bus. It was only like a mile, and I was going that direction anyway to hit the highway. So I'd take her home sometimes. Yeah, it's like a real old lady. She's insane as could be. It's always fun too when like you look at someone and you're like, that's a stable individual, and then you start getting into conversations with them, and you're like, oh my god, I opted into this conversation. Yeah. So I had that job at Goodwill. I then transferred from that job at Goodwill. I was still working at that hotel. It's kind of like a farmhand / maintenance man. And this is in like maybe 2020, 2019, 2020. I worked at that Goodwill for a little while. This guy's trying to park next to me. There's not a spot though. Yeah, there's not a spot where he's trying to park. I don't think he understands that. Okay. Yeah, but yeah. Trying to get back on track. I then transferred. They closed that Goodwill. The Goodwill closed, so then they gave me options of like places I could transfer to, and I went with the Medina Goodwill. Medina. Yep. I went with that one, and it looks super cool. They have a ton of cool stuff, and that's the one where like everyone was pricing stuff for themselves and everything else. And that's the one where I met Kristen, and I started sleeping with the assistant manager or whatever, one of the managers. I was pricing stuff for myself out, and just hanging women's clothes and stuff a lot. So that was where, like, at this point I had already had thrifting as a hobby and as a potential like job that I could do for myself in mind and everything. Like, I parked in a spot that's not a spot because I parked on the end spot of this line. So he just parked. There's tons of parking spots. Yeah. So I worked at Goodwill for, I want to say I worked at that one for like 6 to 8 months until like it kind of got out of control, because it was to the point where like I was pricing stuff for me, I was pricing stuff for her, her kids sometimes. Like, it was bad. Like, at the end of the day, some days, like, depending on what we got, because everyone knows what I want, and I know, I like certain stuff. So everyone in the back there doesn't care either way, and they just bring me cool stuff. Like, oh, Bose speaker, Bose Bluetooth speaker. Or I'll just see something when I walk over, like, original V1 Nike Yeezys. And yeah. So, like, I just find stuff. And it got bad because it got to the point where it was like, I'd fill up a backpack. Like, I would price a backpack, and then I would fill that backpack up with clothes, expensive shoes, Louis belts, all types of nuttiness. And then I would just go out on the floor and I just like figure out where I could hide it. That's what it got to. It used to be like I'd put it on the shelf, and like, a lot of the time though, like, dude, even if I put it on the shelf 30 minutes before I got out there, people would get it. And I got tired of that. So I got a little smarter about it. I had that job. I was still working at the hotel, and then me and Kristen decided to move in together. So I lost the hotel job. The guy like increased my rent and like kind of screwed me over in a bunch of ways, even though he was screwing me over before. So I didn't keep working for him. I was planning to drive the like 50 minutes or whatever to come work for him, maybe one day a week, as long as he could do like 12 hours or something. Because he's paying me 15, even though I wasn't getting paid. It was all going just to pay for the room. Yeah. But he kind of screwed me in the end, and I was like, I'm not doing it. I don't care. Like, screw you. So me and her moved into this apartment in the absolute middle of nowhere, about 40 minutes away from where we worked at the time. We only worked there for like another month or so, and then we were both fired for the pricing stuff and putting it out. They already kind of thought we were sleeping together, and they weren't a huge fan of it, but they were letting it go as long as we weren't doing anything at work. And yeah. So got fired from, well, yeah, I was fired from that job. It is what it is. I asked them at the end of the thing, I'm like, do I need a lawyer? And they're like, no. Because again, I was smart about it, and I had paid for everything. I wasn't like stuffing things in my pocket and just taking it home. It was like, I'm putting it on the floor, and then I'm coming up to the register, and then your managers, which a lot of time it wasn't even my girlfriend at the time, your managers are putting stuff out, and like, yeah, it's not my fault that I bought a brand new Louis Vuitton belt in front of one of your managers. They're not looking. Like, they don't have eyes. It's not my fault. Like, people do stuff. It was bad. Yeah, people just didn't care. And everyone wanted stuff, but, like, some of them were more careful with what they did. Like, old people hiding stuff on it was bad. Like, sometimes you'd be picking through clothing lots. Like, we have big bins, and you would just find people's hidden gems that they had thrown in there they probably forgot about. It was that bad. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I seen other people doing stuff, and I'm like, I follow suit, bro. I'm like, that's how it is around here. That's how it is around here. Don't tell me twice. Like, I know how to min-max. Like, when I walk around in the store, I'm walking twice as fast as anyone in there. I'm on my time. I'm here to move. Like, I got things to do. Even though I don't, I move like I got things to do. So, yeah. This has been a long one. Yeah, so I worked at that job for I worked at Goodwill in general for probably like 6 or 7 months before I lost that job, because I had no money, like I say. That was the second time I started over with no money in my pocket. And yeah. And then worked at La Quinta Inn and Suites. They were part of Hampton Inn and Suites in Sandusky. I was a maintenance man there for almost a year. I think it was like right about a year. But that job sucked. It was the nastiest hotel they owned. It was the oldest hotel they owned. It used to be the owner's house that they had slowly built into a hotel. Like, the rooms used to be outdoors, and then now they're covered rooms. And imagine I have to fix everything. It's basically 60 or 70 years worth of hack work to make this hotel possible, and then I'm supposed to hack work it back together. And after about a year, I just was so tired of it. Like, they didn't know that I was doing this, but then eventually they found out. Like, my reports, so each room would have taken me like a week for me to fix, even though they were like, we only get like 2 hours per room. You have to do like 2 a day. So if you tell me something stupid enough, I'm just gonna ignore you and roll on with my business until someone tells me not to. So for probably about like 6 months, I just worked on reports in between doing actual work, like fixing TVs and fixing the pool. And some days I'd spend 4 or 5 hours working on the stupid pool, so the health department wasn't upset when they came out or whatever. Yeah, that pool was a nightmare. Everything was broken. I was hand feeding everything. It was just so bad. But again, I was just doing these reports. So they have reports for most of the rooms where it's just like ceiling inch and a half separation from wall and ceiling, bathroom, hole inside of bathroom. Every toilet, every caulk job was just terrible hack job. I had to recaulk like everything. We were ripping out the carpets and redoing them with LVT or whatever. Yeah. So I was a maintenance man for about a year. Kind of taught me a decent bit. And then lost my girl. Well, we split up. It doesn't really matter. And then I just kind of gave up, man. I was ready to end it again. There's so many times where I just like, I'm like, all right, dude, we're riding this one until we got no money, and then it's gonna be the big bullet. And then I'm just a huge pussy, and I give up, or I don't like, yeah. Like one of the times I was like, I'll just take a handful of Tylenol, and then I started looking into it, and it's like, well, you might just get liver failure and look really stupid. I'm like, well, that's stupid. I don't know. It's not good. But a lot of the times I back myself. I try to back myself into a corner so hard so that that's the only option I have. Yeah. I do it all the time. Or I just get mad and that's the first thing I think. I just start like thinking like, all right, let's go. Yeah. So that job, I ended up just, my manager was just like, he was on me when he wanted me to fix something that he knew I didn't know how to fix, that there was no point in fixing because it didn't need to be fixed until tomorrow, and the guy who knew how to fix it, who could show me how to fix it, would be there tomorrow. So he was just like yelling at me at the desk or just on me about it, and at a certain point I was just like, I don't care, whatever, and I walked off because I was gonna go grab my stuff and just go home because I was tired of hearing him. And he just followed me around for about 5 minutes, just like continuing on with his mouth and everything. And then after I got all my tools and stuff, and he's still just like running his mouth to me. He's followed me like all the way back to my office, and he's just running his mouth. And I'm like, dude. I eventually like I popped. I'm like, I don't care. Like, get the fuck away from me. Get away from me right now. Get away from me. Like, be gone. And then he's like he's about to fight me or something, and I'm like, go ahead and try. You're like 3 or 4 years younger than me. You're fatter than me. I'll beat the brakes off you. Like, and I'm sure he knew it. He knew he wasn't gonna put his hands on. But he's getting all hyped up, and like I wasn't getting all hyped up. I'm like putting my tools in my bag, separating what tools are theirs. Like I'm out. I'm in my head. I'm already in the car, ripping the vape, driving an hour home. That's the other thing. It was 55 minutes each way to work. It was 55 minutes one way, 55 minutes the other way. It was like 32 or 37 miles. Miserable as could be. My car would shake every time I'd hit 70 miles an hour. That job was horrible. Yeah. And then I lost my apartment because I gave up, like I said. And then I lost my apartment on June, I think it was 30th. We're now at like December 16, 17, 18. Out of check, I'm not sure. I know it's Friday. Yeah. So I took the job at doing like cabins, and working at the hotel sometimes, and like working on hot tubs and stuff. So I did that maintenance job for maybe 3 or 4 months just so I could get some money in my pocket and different things. And then yeah, I asked for a raise because like it was getting cold and I was getting worried, and it didn't make sense that I'm gonna stay here for $13 an hour. Like, you make $13 an hour anywhere. I have to drive. I have two different work vehicles that I drive around. Like, one of them is my actual work vehicle that I yeah, and I would go do work calls at night, and because I was the closest person. If I did a work call and it only took me 6 minutes after I got there, and it only took me 5 minutes to get there, I just like drove my car, did all these things to make like $2. You know what I mean? It just didn't. It was so dumb. It didn't make any sense. I asked for a raise, and my manager, who was a pastor at a big church, like almost mega churches, I guess, pastor at church, who's also a closeted homosexual. He's living like a fake lie with like he's got kids and a black wife. He's trying as hard as humanly possible to hide, I guess. I don't know. It's very strange. But there's that. And in like a $300 jacket, he's just like, no, you can either have the 13 or go fuck yourself. And I'm like, I guess I'll go fuck myself. Actually, fuck you. Because it fucked him. And then their head maintenance guy, which is the only guy that has any idea what he's doing, is over it, and he's quitting, and he's gonna go work for his uncle because the pay's way more, and obviously he's gonna be treated better because it's with family. So he's quitting after the winter, or he might have already quit out right now. But like I say, maybe a week after I quit, they reposted. I asked for, because when he first hired me, he was like, it's 13 to 16, I think, or 13 to 15. He was like, how much do you want? 13 to 15. I'm desperate. I have no money in my pocket. I was like, I'll just take 13 because I just need money. And I thought maybe if I said 15, he'd say no. I said 13. He instantly was like, oh, awesome, yes, right. And then like 3 months later, I go back to him and I'm like, yeah, I think I need like, maybe two more dollars. And I said why I needed it, and because what he was currently paying me, I couldn't even fit into the 33% to get into a trailer or any apartment whatsoever. So I was just screwed. I couldn't do anything. So I wanted an extra $2. He told me no. Basically, he's like, no, and he's like, I didn't say that. He basically lied. I was like, I didn't say that. This is an entry level position, and that's all you're worth, and pretty much like that. And so I just bailed. And then, like I say, a week later, they reposted a job that when they hired me on, they were looking for another guy, but with me on the crew, we didn't need another guy anymore. You know what I mean? Because I'm a machine. Yeah, we didn't need another guy because I work hard enough that I can fill two guys as a role, especially if they're lazy. And yeah, but they reposted the job after I quit, and they're like, yeah, they need two people now, and the pay is 13 to 16. So they lost a good employee who was hardworking, who would wake up at night to go do a work call, and was driving their work van safely every single day. And yeah, they just didn't see any value in me. They thought I was worth $13 an hour, and so I just had to leave. And now I'm working at like a carpet factory. Yeah, we make like carpets and stuff for automotive stuff, but it's 18, which is awesome because when I quit this job, I was just like, whatever I can find for 16. I started applying, so I started looking for stuff for 16 and whatnot, and I think like 15, 16, anything like that I was looking for. And then this place, I technically got hired through a temp service class, so I kind of got screwed. But like I say, the pay is right. Like it's like $596 every week for 40 hours of work. Like, which for me is great. It's not. It's really hard work. It hurts a lot. It's very dangerous. I can't communicate with most people that work there. It's very miserable. But the money's right. So I've been working there for like 6-7 weeks now. So yeah, I haven't had a lot of jobs, man. Like my first job was literally in I think like 2017, like 2016, 2017. I have not had a job. I lived at home with my grandpa. I dropped out of high school. I sold drugs for a little while, and then I don't know. I kind of just fit myself into the role of I needed to take care of my grandpa, which I didn't. I just wanted to stay home and play video games and not do anything because I'm mentally ill. But yeah, at a certain point, I had no money and I was starving and I was living in the car, and I just had to get a job. So I've only had a handful of jobs, like I say. You can call me a pussy and say weak or whatever, but I don't like working. I hate people. Like, for the most part, I don't feel like most jobs are the pay is like what it needs to be. The effort to dollar amount a lot of the time. Yeah. I don't know. I want to work for myself one day. Like, I'm not gonna be working a factory job or whatever in 5 or 10 years. Like, it's just I don't know. Every year, every few years, like my mindset changes. My first job, I was making, I think it was $9.25 or something like that, and people were really upset that we made like $1.25 more at this Goodwill than any other one. So I was making $9.25, and now I make 18. Like I make double what I made 5 years ago, like when I started. Yeah. So I think I'm doing okay. I'm at least on the right track. It's not enough money. It's not at all where I want to be. I want to be a lot closer to like $30 an hour. So maybe I'll do plumbing one day. Who knows? It just doesn't matter. But I'm just kind of grinding it right now. I have to grind it until I get this house, and then I just chill. I just wanted to do a little bit of a theme video. I didn't really know what I would do it on. I just thought I'd do it on my jobs because I've only had a couple of them. Other than that, 16 to 19, I used to 16 to 19, I used to sell pot. Yeah, just Mexican brickweed. I sold a lot of pot. Yeah, it was my only job. It was a small period of time where I think I made like $75 on CS:GO skins or something, just because I was holding on to them. I played like 1,500 hours worth of 1,500 hours worth of CS:GO, and you just earn the free packs. And I think I would just hold on to the boxes and I'd sell them and buy skins and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I sold everything before it got really expensive too because I'm stupid. You know me. Yeah. But yeah, I just want to detail my jobs. I hope it wasn't too annoying because I'm gonna rewatch it. But yeah, I don't regret buying this jacket. Work was absolutely miserable yesterday, and like I say, the $20 I blew in clothing yesterday was that motivation that you need to stay here. You need to get this money. You need to do what you got to do. And today's Friday. Today's the last day, unless they mandate me for overtime. And I'm gonna go try and wash clothes and clean my car up a little bit for the people of Firestone, so I can be as nice as possible to them. I might end up getting that Predator bag because I gotta head that way. I'm off the way to like $35-40 for it. So yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna eat breakfast. This video is gonna take a atrocious amount of time to upload. Yeah. Hope everyone has a good day. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Yeah. I hope you guys are doing well. See you guys.